Supply side myth debunked in 2 minutes.
Oh, this ought to be good. Not!
Supply side, or trickle-down economics.
Oh, make up your mind. Which one is it? Actually, there's no such thing as trickle-down economics. You won't find it mentioned in any textbook from any school of economics. It was a term coined by Will Rogers to refer to the Depression-era policies of FDR. In other words, what you advocate. Taking money from people in taxes under the impression the government can spend it better, and the benefits will trickle down to the people. Didn't take you economic ignoramuses long to co-opt that, did it?
Love 'em, hate 'em, tolerate 'em. Regardless of personal feelings, taxes make the world go round.
Yeah, this is the level of idiocy we're dealing with here.
And the U.S. economy go round.
Then why do economies do worse when taxes are higher? And how do you explain why revenues are a consistent percentage of GDP once the tax rate gets above 10% or so? I have a video from several years ago showing this. Link is in the description. This is how long this crap has been debunked. These leftists are liars that have nothing new.
But there's a camp of lawmakers who minimize the importance of government and the role of taxes in effective governance.
Yeah, sensible ones. Unfortunately, they can't seem to get elected.
These lawmakers, backed by wealthy special interests.
Then why do these wealthy special interests keep donating largely to progressive candidates like Hillary Clinton? How come basically none of them donate to libertarians?
Insist that supply-side economics, a la tax cuts, especially for the rich.
Oh, that's not what it is. Is it really so much to ask these wonderkins to actually look up the concept they're bleating on about? Keynesian economics is demand side. You stimulate the economy by boosting aggregate demand, generally through government spending. Libertarians are against this. Supply side economics is when you do the same thing on the supply side. Have the government give investment money to companies, like in Obama's so-called stimulus package. Libertarians are against this, too.
Tax cuts, especially for the rich, are the golden ticket to broad prosperity.
Mr. Strawman, give me a break.
This erroneous ideological policy theory is rooted in the unproven assumption that lowering taxes for the rich causes them to work harder and invest more, thereby creating jobs and boosting the economy.
That isn't even remotely what it says. Taxes are a drain on the economy. The less of them there are, the more money people have to spend on things that they actually want, or invest the way that they see fit. You never spend someone else's money as efficiently as you spend your own. At the absolute very best, taxes would make no difference since they would be spent just as efficiently as people do. But they never do. There's amazing waste because no one in power has the economic incentive to make the best use of it. Because if they need more, they can just raise taxes or increase the deficit. Their marginal utility of $1 is much less than it is with members of the public. Not only that, but government is doing completely the wrong things with this, as we saw in the years leading up to the housing crisis. They decided that people deserve to have the American dream of owning a home, so they mandated lower interest rates for risky or lower income borrowers. Keynesian politicians hate savings because they see it as hoarding, so they tax people solely so the money can be spent when that money would be better off invested in the economy, which is what saving does. So we have less investment and therefore less economic growth. Also, anytime you cut taxes, you're going to cut taxes for the rich because the rich pay the most taxes, which we can see from the real data, not the bunkum you leftists keep bleeding. The CBO has repeatedly discovered that the effective tax rate, that is the actual amount of dollars going into the actual treasury, after all the deductibles and loopholes and everything, goes up with each income bracket.
Supply-siders even claim that cutting taxes for the rich will allow governments to collect more tax revenue.
Yeah, it's called the Laffer curve, so what's your debunking of it?
Turns out that...
Guess you don't have one. Okay, thought experiment. If the tax rate is 0% of income, what are revenues? They're 0, right? Now what if it's 100%? It'll be zero as well because no one will work. They'll volunteer or more likely work under the table so they don't pay any taxes. So if it's 0 at 0% and 0 at 100%, what happens in the middle? There are only two possibilities. Either it's 0 at all tax levels, which obviously isn't the case, or it goes up for a certain amount, but then you get diminishing returns and it goes right back down again. Remember when I pointed out how taxes are a fairly constant percentage of GDP above a certain rate? Why do you think that would be? It can only be because if you raise the tax rate, you inhibit the economy and GDP goes down. Likewise, if you cut taxes, you stimulate the economy, GDP goes up, and so do revenues. There must be an inverse ratio between the tax rate and economic well-being. There's no other way mathematically that the statistics work.
Giving tax cuts to people who are already wealthy just makes the rich richer.
Yeah, got any proof?
Not to mention contributing to growing income inequality.
Then maybe you can explain why income inequality goes down the more economically free a country is. No, don't even try. You're shoveling it and you know it.
Take, for example, President George W. Bush's tax cuts.
I covered these so-called tax cuts 10 years ago, so I'll just put the link to that video in the description. Again, they're lying and they know it.
Supply-side adherents and their political allies have either forgotten or simply don't care about the reason we all pay taxes, to fund services that matter hugely to the economy and to all of us.
Really? And what percentage of the budget actually goes to those things? Not anywhere near as much as you want people to believe. And two of them, jobs and access to healthcare, cannot be maintained through taxation. I've already covered it with jobs. For healthcare, see my video, How to Argue for Universal Healthcare. It only results in healthcare shortages. And as for education, if you really believe that drivel, then why are you so vociferously opposing school choice initiatives? That's the action of a monopolist who can't stand the competition, not someone who wants the public to have the best choices. Fun fact. We could completely eliminate the personal income tax, replace it with nothing, and still fund Bill Clinton's 1997 budget without running a deficit. They call themselves Citizens for Tax Justice. I call it another example of Killian's Law.
It's time to be real. Trickle-down economic policies don't work. Taxes aren't a bad thing. The nation's lawmakers should stop pursuing failed supply-side trickle-down experiments. Instead, they should pursue sensible tax policies that recognize the economically vital role that taxes have in funding the services on which we all rely.
Notice how much economic data he cited for support for this. None at all. Hey everyone, I'm now on Maker Support, so just go to makersupport.com/ShaneDK. Of course, Patreon and all the other ways of supporting me are still there. And check out all the other great content here, like this video selected especially for you.